Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Kickback. I am your host, the Dude, and as we do every Tuesday, we have extraordinary conversations with ordinary people. Tonight is no different, but before we get all of that done, I'd like to say if you have not checked out our website, thekickback.one, again, that is thekickback.one. You can look at all of our episodes, and you can also see a picture of me and get my story. You'll see where I'm from, who I am, and what makes me tick. And the show is sponsored by Martin's Chicken and Waffles. If you've never had Martin's Chicken and Waffles, you need to go and check them out. The family is amazing. The food is fantastic. They are located at 207 South Water Street. That is in Gallatin, Tennessee. Again, that is 207 South Waters Avenue in Gallatin, Tennessee. And listen, if you're listening to this and you go check them out, tell them you heard about them on the Kickback, because we love Martin's Chicken and Waffles. They are a great place to have a great meal. The family is wonderful. The food is amazing. Go check out Martin's Chicken and Waffles. But as we do every week, we have an amazing conversation with an amazing person tonight. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful conversation. So just stay here with us. We're going to play our theme song, and then we're going to get started. So, as we do every week. The Kickback, the place for brothers. Yeah. The Kickback, a place for brothers. Yeah. The Kickback, a place for brothers. Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to the building, Mr. Matthew Scott Thomas. How are you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, man. I tell my audience all the time that I do conversations, and that's what this is just basically going to be a conversation, highlighting who you are, what you are, how you got to where you are in life. But I just kind of tell my audience, hey, we do uh, conversations with ordinary people doing extraordinary things in their lives. So you're no different from anyone else. You are an ordinary person. Uh, and most people say what I've done is not extraordinary, but hey, in everyone's life, there is always something extraordinary, and your story can help someone else who's going through whatever it is they're particularly going through in life. And it shines a light on you and who you are. But I like to introduce my show. We are the Kickback. I am the host, the dude, and we're just here. Like I said, it's going to be an ordinary conversation. I always tell my guests that up front, it's like a mullet. So we're going to get all the business out up front, and then on the back end, we're going to have some fun. And what I mean by fun is I always ask my guests at the end of the show, I ask them like 3 to 4 variety questions to really get to know you as a person. And it's nothing malice. It's nothing that's going to be harmful to you or any sort. It's just some fun loving questions to just kind of break the monotony. But right now, what I need you to do is I need you to explain to my audience your name, what you do for a living, and where you went to school and where you grew up at.
Well, I am Matthew Scott Thomas. Currently, I am employed at News Channel 5. That's WTVF here in Nashville. I am a video editor for the morning show. So all of the video that is shown while the anchors are talking or the reporters are doing a live hit, I edit up all those videos and the short interviews that you see during the newscast. I was able to go to Tennessee State with a music scholarship from the Aristocratic Bands, and I grew up in Gallatin, Tennessee, my whole life.
Gallatin, Tennessee. You grew up there. So what high school did you go to?
I went to Gallatin Senior High School.
Gallatin Senior High School. So, it is amazing. You sound like a young man. I'm, around somewhere between 25 and 35. And I know it's a broad spectrum of numbers, but you sound like you're a pretty young man. Uh, was that a dream to work in video editing and work at News Channel 5?
Um, I would say now that I'm doing it, it's definitely like a dream. Growing up, I always wanted to make films and be a film director. And that's actually what my main focus was while I was in school. I had multiple different internships with one was the Nashville Film Festival, volunteer with the International Black Film Festival. So my main focus was really film for the early years of college. And then towards the end, it kind of dawned on me like I can't do film for a 9 to 5. I have to find a steady job once I leave college. And I'd always liked watching the news station. I always liked television. So I was able to get connected there and get a job. And that's really the perfect place for me right now because I like documentary making. And this just feels like practicing the fundamentals every day for my job. So I was always interested in video editing and video creation. So it's definitely something that I'm very grateful to be able to do.
So have you made any small? I know you said you're in independent films. Even at your level, have you made any small movies yet? Like something just real small for you on at your capacity and at your level of video editing.
Yes, my very last year of college, I made a short documentary that was called The Dying Soul of Nashville. And it was about how gentrification was taking over kind of the culture and the history of North Nashville. And I went out to several different businesses and then I put together a short 5 minute documentary. And then also with that, that was the only independent film I made for myself, but I also made a short recruitment video for the Tennessee Lottery when I was interning with them. and just different videos that I made for the band while we were on the road to win a Grammy.
Okay, so you made a short film about North Nashville, and right now North Nashville is a hotbed when it comes to gentrification and things of that nature, and also Bordeaux is, some of the up and coming areas where a lot of developers are trying to gentrify our neighborhoods. How do you feel about that?
I feel like it's one of those things that we just have to be aware of as a community, and we have to be knowledgeable that there's an issue that's going on. It's not something that I feel like it's in America. I feel like it could be anybody in a vulnerable position. I don't. Of course, race has a lot to do with it because that's the history and the fabric of America. That's the way it was built up. So these systems, when they disaffect people, will disaffect us the most. But as I was talking to these business owners, and they were talking about people selling their homes because of property taxes and being willing to live somewhere and not necessarily own the home. I feel like as a community, if we really want to fight gentrification, then we're going to have to realize that the only way to combat it is to own where you live and then funnel money into your community continuously. So that was a big thing they were talking about, is all of this really came about with integration, when when black people started leaving the black neighborhoods and putting their dollar elsewhere, and that left the businesses vulnerable, which later left the people vulnerable. So I think we just have to get back to funneling money in our community if we really want to battle it, but it is an issue.
All right, so at your age, that sounds good. Is that what you see as something we need to do, and is that an initiative that you and people of your age are trying to initiate to keep what is said as Black Nashville alive?
I believe so. From what I've seen, I definitely think that it's more pertinent than what it was than, maybe 5 years ago. I'm only 23 myself, so I can't go too far back. But I know, like, when I was in college, anytime that we would do like an event or we had somebody that had to bring us food as an organization, they always made sure to use black businesses. And then I remember also around like 2020, when all the protests were happening, there started to be blackouts where in the community it became like a trend to only buy black for a period of time. And recently with the Target boycott, I think our community is really starting to understand that our most powerful weapon is our dollar. So I think it's starting to change, but it's like anything, it's going to take time.
Very true, but here's the thing: what I notice with when it comes to different age groups, the older generation, like I've been to a couple meetings and boards and all these different things for North Nashville, and when I go to those different meetings, what I notice is there's a age difference. Majority of the people that are at those meetings are 40 to 70. You really don't find that many people that are under 40 at these meetings and fighting for our neighborhoods. Why is that?
Honestly, I really can't say. I'm not sure myself. I think a lot of it probably has to do with that in Nashville, there's probably a disconnect between the types of youth. So you have like the youth in college and the HBCUs, because Nashville has three different HBCUs, and those kids might be aware of the issue, but since they don't have a personal connection to Nashville because their hometown is here, their hometown is there, they leave their activism kind of on the campus. And then kids outside of the colleges and stuff, I'm really not sure if they're fully aware of how bad the issue is in Nashville. I think that's probably the main thing, is my generation, the younger generation, not realizing how fast stuff is moving. And you have to be aware of it, not just when it's trending or not just when it's national headlines. You have to be aware of it day to day because that's how fast it's moving.
Right. And that's, you just said something really big, trending. And that's what a lot of young people are looking for, is trends instead of something that is sustainable. Because if we lose, or if someone loses their legacy or their history, that's not a trend. That's something that's going down the drain forever. That's something that's lost. Their kids and the kids behind them will never know what it's like, or how they got to the particular place in life they are, because people are not understanding that if you don't know your history, then how do you know where you're going? Because if you don't know where you came from, how do you know how you got that nose? How do you know that your arched feet came from your great great grandma who used to walk down Jefferson carrying bundles of whatever, or your grandpa was a dancer at the jazz clubs on Jefferson Street, and that's why you have the urge to dance, because it's genetics. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand for sure. I think it's a disconnect between both generations as well. I think also the older generation automatically assumes that the younger generation doesn't isn't really invested. But a lot of times it's just because the knowledge hasn't been passed down. Because I think that's really been the biggest problem in our community, because of how different institutions in this country has affected us. It's been hard to pass information down from generation to generation consistently. So a lot of young people, even myself, before I started making that documentary on North Nashville and how the culture was taken away, I didn't know the culture was as big as it was. I didn't understand that, like Club Baron. I didn't understand all the huge names that were coming through North Nashville, all the types of money that was spent in North Nashville. I knew none of that until I sought it out for myself. And you kind of get patted on the back by the older generation when you do seek out that knowledge and they're able to tell that to you. But I think the same way that we're disconnected in trying to pursue that knowledge, it's also a disconnect from the older generation in concisely and clearly passing down knowledge and not just expecting it to be given to us from somewhere else, like school or college. Like, that's something that directly needs to be told, I feel like.
Very true. Now you beg the question that I have to ask. Where are your parents from?
My parents are actually from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, so yeah, so they know Louisville, Kentucky, so they're not actually Nashvillian. So I understand why you didn't really know the history. Now, how long you graduated from Gallatin Senior High School, but how long had your parents lived in Gallatin? Your whole entire life?
Yes, sir. My whole entire life. I believe they moved down here in like 84, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was way before you got here. So even with them moving here in '84, they should have known some of the history. But hey, that's nor here nor there on them. But you're right. It is almost like that. The history in some people, the history is being passed down, but in other people, it's like they're harboring the history and they don't want to pass it down. So you're right. There is a disconnect between the age gaps, but there are people out here that's trying to educate everyone on the particular history of said neighborhoods. But sometimes it seems like it's falling up on deaf ears, because just like you just said, that is a major problem in every community, not just the black community, but it's what's trending. Because if you look in the country, and I mean like what I say country, I mean like in rural areas, it's not just black kids selling off their family's property. It's white kids selling off their family properties, because nobody wants to work the land anymore. Nobody wants to be a farmer. Nobody wants to be in agriculture. Nobody wants to grow the crops that we need to survive. Everybody wants to be trending now. Everybody wants to be a trending topic. Everybody wants to be influencer. Everyone wants to be an internet star. But how is that internet star going to eat if we don't have farmers?
Yeah. And I would say it's even with the knowledge, like even in Gallatin, it was because Gallatin is so rural, it's kind of a history of its own. It's hard to concisely, especially in rural areas, kind of get like a clear history of what happened before you. Like you'll get little tidbits here and there. You'll learn about your great aunt here or your great great grandfather or this or that. but it's hard to learn about the community as a whole because it's kind of just things get passed on here, get passed on here. It's just it's a very interesting dynamic, but I think it's starting to get better, especially in Nashville more than any other place I've really noticed. We have people like Mr. Lorenzo Washington and the Street Sound Museum going on different news stations, talking to young kids. And really, all we need to do as a community is just promote people like that and really get that information spread. Because once the knowledge is there of who you actually are and what your history actually is, you realize that you can be great without it being a trend because you've always been great.
Right, right. But how do we, at your age of 23, how do we convey that message? Because I am way over 23. I'm actually in my 40s. So and I have kids your age. I have children your age, and I appreciate you being here. You're the first young man I've had on my show, and I just want to pick your brain a little bit. I'm not picking on you. I just want to pick your brain because a lot of my guests have been my age or older, and I appreciate you being here. But from what you've seen and how you look at the world, how does a man like me bridge the gap with someone in your friend circle? How, if you could elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's a very level question because even me myself, it's hard for me to even relate to my own peers a lot of times because I've always loved history. Like that's always been my favorite subject in school. I've always been interested about the history of wherever I'm at while I'm there. Even in News Channel 5, Aristocratic Bands, I always love going back, going through the archives, watching the old videos. So that's a natural interest for me. So that was nothing for me to be able to go out and seek that out. I think I think overall, first of all, there has to be some sort of an interest from our younger community. A lot of it, and I don't say this to be hard on my generation, but I've noticed when it comes to certain things, there's like a level of entitlement there. Like, I've always had conversations with my peers about why don't they teach us Black history in school? And my idea was it doesn't matter if they do or don't. That's really something that we should be trying to teach ourselves. We shouldn't, if America is really intrinsically as racist as we say it is, and systematic racism is a thing, why would we depend on them solely for the education of our history? That's something you should seek out on your own. So there should be some interest there. And I really don't know. That's really just something that it takes just constant pressure before you finally get the younger generation to realize, like, oh, we actually were great. Like we actually did do a lot of things besides slavery. Like every time I hear somebody of my age or really any age complain about they don't teach us nothing but slavery, you really haven't been researching history for yourself. Like more than any other generation in the past, we have access to the most information possible just with the phones in our hands. So the
Aha, yes, yes. Keep going. I
fact you
got
don't
you.
know nothing
Yes.
else fact you don't know nothing else but slavery, that's a you problem because you know whatever you want to know about the subjects you're interested in, you have to be interested in yourself.
And you hit the nail on the head, and I was just about to speak on that. And like, just from your generation to my generation, when I was 16, I bought my first cell phone. And you hear the words I said. I bought my first cell phone. The first cell phone that ever came into my household, my mother got it through the home phone company, which was Bell South. They offered a plan where you could get a cell phone, and the cell phone, all you could do was make phone calls on it.
Mm.
And that was the first cell phone we ever got. And I was probably 13, maybe 14 years old. But my first cell phone that I owned and paid a bill on, I got when I was 16 years old. And still at that time, you could only make phone calls. And for $10, you got 30 minutes. You understand what I'm saying? So the evolution of things has changed so much, and you're so right. You guys have the world in the palm of your hands, and majority of the people are not using it in the manner that it should be used for. I mean, we're using it for endless scrolls and trying to be trolls and trying to be influencers. Okay, but that's the time. I get it. All of that, it comes with evolution and it comes with time. But you're right. People are not utilizing the tools that they have to learn about their particular history. And you're right. You're interested in figuring out what Kobe's stats were, or you're interested to see when those new Jordans are coming out, but you're not interested to see where your family lineage came from. You know,
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
did my DNA and found out that, some things about me and my family tree, and how, we travel from here and we travel from there, and all these different places that my family's been. But I'm just like you. I love history. I love to dive deep into who I am and where I come from, because I want to know that story of how I particularly got to this place where I'm at in life. And so you're right about that, and it's just hard. So Gallatin is
yeah.
rural. What did your parents do for a living?
It's interesting. My dad was a meter reader at Cumberland Electric Membership Corporation. They provide electricity to the area, so he would go out, read the meter on the side of the house, and then notify somebody how much they owe for electrical bill. And then outside of that, he also owned a trash disposal business. And I grew up working with him on that since I was 9 years old. And then my mom, she was just the best stay-at-home mom in the world. So that's really all they did.
Okay, so some blue collared family, just some blue collar family, and that's beautiful. Because blue collars is what when the world see, like when I was growing up, because we're gonna go back and forth on a couple of things because I got you here. When it was time for me to leave high school and to go into college, everyone wanted to go into IT. Everybody wanted to go into coding. And I'm like you. I think a little different, and I thought outside the box. I was like, okay, well, if you're going to work on a computer all day, who's going to build the desk? Who's going to build the chair? Who's going to build that beautiful office that you're dreaming about being in? Who's going to build those things? And it was like most people wanted this IT job. They wanted to do all those things. Nobody wanted to do the blue collar jobs. It's wonderful to hear, that it's still alive and well, and it sounds like you're a well-rounded young man, and it sounds like you were brought up with some wonderful, wonderful family values. To just hear you articulate and have a conversation with you just tells me that you have wonderful parents and they did an amazing job with you. Uh, and also, I know you have church life. I know you go to church, and I know because that's another one of those places that you don't see a lot of young people in the church anymore. Like when I was growing up, we went to church every Sunday. Now you see a lot more older people in the church. That's another one of those questions. How does churches get the message to the young people?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Is You just have to instill it in them while they're young, and then there will definitely be times, especially growing up in this generation, where things will be questioned. And I think the biggest thing is shifting from the old way of thinking to a newer way, which most churches have done, but I think still as an African American community in specific circles and churches, we could do better about, instead of shying away from those questions, actually attacking those questions head on when they're had. And if you don't know the answer, researching for yourself and coming back and asking those, answering those questions from the younger generation, because we already spoke about that. We had the most access to knowledge than any other generation in the past. So when kids or younger people are asking about different things they learned in school, like why was it mentioned I am that I am in Egyptian history way before the Bible was supposedly written. Instead of acting like that person is questioning the faith, actually breaking down the research of how that's not the same. It's not similar at all. And the Bible, for most of it, was an oral history. So its actual conception goes way farther than we even think that it goes. They really don't have a measurement for it. We only know when it was written down and passed, around the world. Firstly, probably with the Septuagint, and then later on with different versions. So I think that's just one of those things. Both sides have to be willing to adapt with each other. The younger generation has to understand why people have been believing what they believe for so long. And instead of trying to have the answer for everything cut and dry, just having faith, because that's the biggest part. And I think the older generation has to realize that answering questions and letting people really explore themselves and try and make sense of things is not questioning the faith. It's actually trying to make sense of what it is that we're trying to believe in this world that we live in.
Right. And that's true because some older people are so stuck in this old mindset of do as I say, not as I do. And a child's supposed to stay in a child's place, but at some point a child grows up and has questions, like you said, and want to know what's the difference in the Bible and what it says, because I don't know anybody, not even me, that lives exactly out what the Bible says. I don't know anybody that lives exactly out what the Bible says. So younger people, you, younger than you, see that, but then you're preaching that, hey, you got to live like this. You got to live like the Bible. You got to live like Christ. You got to live like this. You got to live like that, without an explanation of, hey, this is a guidebook. This is the, not like the end all be all, but it is a guidebook, and it is something that is supposed to lead you to salvation and victory and almighty eternal life. But you're going to slip up along the way. You're going to have some mishaps along the way, but nobody's explaining it to them. They're just telling them, hey, you're supposed to live like Christ. You're supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that, because one of the biggest things is sex. When it comes to sex in the Bible, and oh, it's a sin, and don't have sex before marriage, and do all this and do all that. Hey, look here, man. Most of us had sex before we was married. In my age group, why lie about it? This is a place of honesty and transparency. Most of us had sex before we was married. It happened. Not to say all of us did it, but a lot of us did. So I'm not finna sit here, like, I have children. I have 5 kids. I never once made them feel like, hey, you got to save yourself. I said, listen, the Bible says you're supposed to save yourself till you get married. But I know you're human and your flesh gets hot. And I know that you may go out here and some little boy and some little girl may tempt you. I said it happens. You're human. Life happens. But we had those conversations. We had that dialogue. We were able to talk. I made it comfortable for my children to be able to have these conversations with me and understand that it's not cut and dry. Come to me and ask me a question about the Bible. Come to me and ask me a question about life. What did that kid say to you at school? And you're right. A lot of people, lot more people need to have that open dialogue with their children and with this world. And maybe we'll understand. But when you have two sides that are constantly bickering with each other and nobody wants to sit down at the table and really have true dialogue about the reason why the left feels the way the left feels and the right feels the way the right feels, we'll never come to an agreement. And that's why I wanted to have you here, not to debate you, not to argue with you, but just to pick your brain a little bit, because you are of the generation that is next up.
Yeah, and I think overall things are really changing, at least from Christianity aspect with this younger generation. Like just here in the past year, I've had so many friends that I never thought would convert to Christianity from not agnosticism, from Islam, even from just straight atheism, have converted to Christianity just off things they've seen online on YouTube or personal experiences they've had, more than I've even experienced growing up at a country school and high school where everybody and their mama was Christian. So you coming into Christianity was just expected if you weren't already in it. But I've seen all types of people in college, in the midst of college, just turn their life around. So things are changing. I think it's changing in a very spiritual way, and it's going to take time, but it's happening quick. It's really happening fast. I will say that.
And that's beautiful to hear. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. That is beautiful to hear. And I'm glad to hear that the tables are turning and more people are coming back to God. I love to hear that, especially from someone, that is seeing this, because college is one of those places that it is wild. College is a
Yeah,
wild place and there's a lot of temptation there.
most definitely.
So, Gallatin High School, then where did you go after that?
Then I went to Tennessee State University and I became a member of the Aristocratic Band.
What instrument did you play?
I played trumpet in high school. I played trumpet in middle school as well, and then I played it in college.
You still play trumpet now?
I've started practicing again recently. I took a couple months off right after I graduated just because I was so busy with my internship and then trying to find a job and then working that job. I really just wasn't worried about playing the trumpet anymore. But here recently, I picked it up every now and then for fun. Probably going to start taking it a little bit more seriously, like at least getting maybe a good 2 practices in a week, just something to keep it up.
Now, what did your school win a Grammy for?
We won a Grammy for our album, The Urban Hymnal. And that's what the band we were able to do. We were able to create that album. They had everybody who was in the band at that time play on the album. So everybody had a part in it. They gave us certificates for being on it. And I was actually blessed enough to be able to work with Sir the Baptist and Jay Ivy to create videos to promote um, our push to try and win a Grammy for the album. So it was a really great experience. I never thought I'd be able to experience something like that in college.
Okay, how many songs is on this album?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's a whole series
Compilation.
of songs. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I mean, that's wonderful. You were a part of it. You are one in a million, because a lot of people will never be able to say that they've actually experienced winning a Grammy. I congratulate you on that, young man. So you spent 4 years at TSU. What did you get a degree in?
I actually spent 5 years at Tennessee State University. I took an extra year just because of how busy things were, because I had a child after my sophomore year, and then I was also in the band, so my schedule was packed. So a lot of times I took as few classes as I could, so I spent an extra year there. But I got a degree. I got a Bachelor of Science in Mass Communications, with a focus in film and television.
Okay, so explain to me what that means in layman's terms.
Basically, it's just the study of how to communicate broadly in broadcasting. And with my focus, film and television, that's just focusing on communicating to the masses through that medium of film and television. And within that degree, you can focus on the writing of it. You can focus on the technology aspect of it, how to broadcast, how to make films. And then also you can focus on what I was more focused on is like the visual storytelling, is what to do with a camera, how to direct a film, how to put things together. So it's kind of a broad-ish degree, but it is kind of niche in how it focuses.
All right, so you could help me film a promo for the kickback.
Yeah, yeah, that would be no problem. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to it. I don't know when we're gonna get it done. You got a hectic schedule, I got a hectic schedule, but I'm gonna hold you to it, because here's the thing: this is audio, and I've been doing this for a year. I've did it for a few years. I've actually got a couple of different shows that I've done before this one, and in true fashion, this show has been therapy. The first show I did was just me sticking my feet out there. The second show I did was more of therapy. See, this to me is therapy. Sitting down, having a conversation with you, picking your brain. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. But it's like this whole experience with this podcast has been like therapy. And I sat behind a mic at a desk with my equipment, and nobody sees me and I see nobody. But this year we're going on 1 year on this particular platform, and earlier at the halfway point I explained to my audience, I said this year we're going to try to integrate a couple of interviews live. We're going to try to do like a YouTube or somebody, or TikTok or Instagram or someone. We're going to try to find the best platform to get the most exposure and do a couple live interviews.
Yeah, I think that would be best. It's definitely the way podcasts are moving in this era is more video focused.
Right, but I don't at this point right now I carry majority of the weight as the producer and everything for the show. Now my co-host, he's a little tied up tonight, but David Van Cleves, he does a lot of my guest because you're not customers, you're my guest relations for me. But when it comes to editing and advertisement and all those things, I do most of that, and I really don't know what I'm doing, but I pray to God that it gets out there and the message is heard, and it's seen in the best format that I can put it out. By trade, I spent 20 years in kitchens cooking, and I've spent the last 3 to 5 years driving. Now I drive a school bus for Metro Davidson County, but audio video was never my thing, but God kept telling me that there was a need for what I'm doing, and he kept pushing and pushing. Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you know how God, he gets on you and he doesn't let up, and he just keeps getting on you, and us as humans, we'll push it on the back burner. Oh God, I'm gonna do it next week. Oh God, I'm gonna do it when I get the equipment. Oh God, I'm gonna do it when I get the chance. And he just kept picking at me and pushing and pushing and pushing until one day he just said, just do it. Don't worry about how it sounds. Don't worry about how it comes across. It's not that, it's the message just that needs to be conveyed, and it's a space that needs to be held for men to have real, transparent, and vulnerable conversations about life, love, and marriage. And one day I was at church, and I had my brother, he was with me. He was on my other podcast, but God just put it on my heart to say, David, you are him. You're the guy that I need to be with me to make this work. And God just kind of put us together, and we've been a dynamic duo ever since then. And I thank God for placing David in my life. And I tell David all the time, he is a great, great man. You know, he is good at what he does for the platform.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we're trying to build a small little team. We ain't got no money, but we just trying to get a message out here to the world.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. That was kind of I was talking to a friend recently who was like praising me for everything that he in his head thought that I had accomplished by, being able to finish the band all the way through, keep my scholarship all the way through, and then get a job in my career field. And he was kind of like, "How'd you do it?" And I was just telling him I had no choice in the matter. And this is not to say to be condescending in no aspect, but I felt like from a young age I was chosen to do a lot of things. And when you're chosen to do something by God, the 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 plus side is you get to do a lot of great things, but the downside is nothing you want to accomplish or nothing you want to happen is going to happen unless God wants that to happen. Because
That you sure
when
know
it
what
was
to say.
when it was time for me to go to college, I wanted to go anywhere but Tennessee State. And that wasn't because of I thought Tennessee State's band was bad or none of that. I didn't even know about HBCU bands at all, except from what I had seen from Drumline. with the high school I went to, we were more focused on core style, so DCI, things like that. I was really hoping to go to like Austin P or the University of Louisville, and I was able to get scholarships for those schools, but those schools were so expensive, it just wasn't enough. And it turned out my private trumpet instructor, because I told him I was preparing for an audition with the Army band, and he was like, "Well, if you're doing that, you might as well join Tennessee State's band. They work out like the Army, and they give pretty good scholarships." And at that point, I was like, "Yeah, I just want to go to college." So I got the information. I auditioned for the band and I was able to make it in. And first day, it was like a culture shock. I was in a completely new environment and didn't understand the severity of what I had signed up for, but I adapted pretty quick. But just to say that my plans that I wanted to happen, that wasn't what was going to happen. God wanted me to go to Tennessee State at the time he wanted me to go, and that's where I ended up.
Hey, what you said, my brother, what you said. When God's got a plan, it don't matter what you want or what you think, he gonna make you do his plan.
Yeah. Even with working even in working with a news station, like I said, I was always focused on film in college, and those last couple years, my mom kept putting it on my heart, try and get a job in news, try and get a job in news, and I was more like, I'm trying to do whatever I can in film, 100%. But it just kept pressing at me and pressing at me to where I finally just humbled myself, and then I really focused on getting a job in a news station. I found the job so quick it made my head spin. So that's why I always like to tell people, like, I don't take credit for really anything I've done, because most of it God had to force me to do it because I was focused on something else.
Right, right. I get it. I to this day, man, even at my age, I'm hard headed. And what did I just say? God pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And I'm being me, being human. I'm like, nah, God, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Nah, God, I'm gonna do it next week. No, and I suffer from perfectionism. I suffer from that. I suffer from the fact that if in my head, I have this certain vision. I have this certain vision of how things should go in my head, and I'll plan it out and I'll do all these things, and God will come through and he'll knock all the papers off the table and say it's not going to work like that. And so then, me being human, I give up because it doesn't look like the particular vision that I have in my head. And I've been working on that. I really have. I've been working on that and trying to, like this whole podcast thing, man. It is, if you go back and listen to some of my shows, they're not, the sound isn't great. There's some interruptions in some of the shows. Their audio may be up, my audio may be down, but God says it's not about any of those things. It's about the message that's being put out. I've done shows with pastors. I've done shows with ex-D boys. I've done shows with people that have been in, men mostly, that have been in abusive relationships and had to go and tell the police that this woman was beating on them. I've done a show with a man who talked about being SA'd. I've done a show with a man who was in the military, lost a few of his fingers, and is now on 100% disability, and he's not over the age of 40 yet.
Mm.
So I've done all these different shows with all these different people, but what I try to do in every show is I convey this message. If one young man, and young man just meaning a man, young man, if one young man hears one of my shows and knows that whatever he's going through in life right now is not his forever, his life can change, because now you're on my show, you're 23, I've had a 23, I've had a 30 something, I've had some 40 somethings, I've had some 50 somethings, I've had some 60 somethings, all different age ranges of guests. But I want some young man or woman to understand that whatever it is you're going through right now in your life is not your forever, because so many people feel like whatever they're going through right now in life is going to be there forever. But things can change in an hour. Things can change in a day. Things can change in a week. Things can change in a month. Things could change in a year. At 18, did you think you were going to be a father by 23?
No, I did not think that at all.
Exactly. But things changed. God had something for you that you didn't know you had for yourself.
That's very true because it all of it really turned out to be a blessing. Like when I think about it, when I look back on my life and everything that I've been through, I realize all of it just prepared me for where I'm at now. Because as a young kid, when I was working with my father on his trash route, he would wake me up in the mornings on Saturday at 3 a.m. to go work with him. When I first started, we would work until like 5 p.m. The later on, he broke the route up between more days, and we just worked till like 2 p.m. But even before that, I started at 9 years old working with him after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then at like 13, waking up at 3 a.m. And I used to always think, why can't I just get an allowance like everybody else I go to school with? Why I gotta go pick up other people's trash and work in this hot sun just to get this little bit of money? But the whole time it was building up a work ethic. It was also building up endurance to where when I went to Tennessee State, because the band culture at black schools is completely different than it is than what I was brought up in at white schools. The stuff we do, like winning Grammys, playing for the president, doing the Rose Bowl, constant battles, you can't do that without a certain level of dedication. And it was a huge level of dedication. I went to college that if I hadn't had those early years of going through that, working like that, I wouldn't have been prepared to shift from, because in Gallatin, band was just an extracurricular activity. It was just a club. It was fun. I wouldn't have been able to shift from let's have fun with this to, oh, this is serious. We're about to go battle Southern University. You got to be right. No talking, focus, attention at all times. We're going to stay out here until 2, 3 a.m. if we have to, and we're going to wake up at 5:45. I wouldn't have been prepared for that if I hadn't experienced everything I had in my life before that.
From one band geek to another, I know. I didn't go to college and play in a band, but listen, I played in 90s Nashville high school band. So everything you
Which
saying, I
school?
understand. Maplewood High School.
Oh, yep, yep, yep. You understand what I'm saying?
I
Yep,
went to
you understand.
Maplewood High School in the 90s.
Yep, you understand perfectly what I'm talking about.
I understand everything you're saying because it was Maplewood against Pearl, Maplewood against
Uh-huh.
Hunters Lane against Whites Creek, Whites Creek against Maplewood, Maplewood against whoever else. And you're right that, and people don't understand, and people, we're not, this is not racist by any means. If you look at the facts, at urban schools versus rural schools, we're taught two totally different things when it comes to band. And I have to say that because in this world we live in, some people take offense to certain languages being said. So in urban communities versus rural communities, it is a totally different thing when it comes to band. Band in an urban community is like that is a cultural event. In rural areas, it's an extracurricular activity because when I was coming up in the 90s, what you just said happened. You get out of school at 2 o'clock, you're still on the field practicing at 6 p.m. Now it's 4 hours. You've been out here trying to perfect how to get your knee up to your chest so you can high step when you come out on Pearl Cone next week. Or
Yeah.
when you marching in the TSU parade, your band outfit need to be as sharp as your Sunday go to meeting clothes, and you need to be prepared to march and play down Jefferson Street the whole entire time.
Yeah, and for me, it was a complete and utter culture shock. Because, like I said, I didn't go to Tennessee State for the band. I went for the scholarship that I got from the band. I didn't know much about the band or HBCU culture and history. I went from when we were at Gallatin, we were using I don't even remember what you call them anymore, but we had where you clipped it onto your horn and you had the sheet music in front of your face while you were in the stands and you played the one half. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
and
know
then
what you're talking
you
about.
you play the one halftime show the entire year. And I went from doing that, and when we would go places, like we never had real competitions when I was in high school. Like I thought there were competitions, but after being in the HBCU band, they weren't competition. We would go up and speak to the other band and hang out with them and all get on the field together. Like it was just complete and utter fun. And when I went from that to Tennessee State, where you have to learn 100 pieces of music by memory before the upperclassmen even show up during pre-drill, I got to go from walking on the field to high stepping quick, and I haven't had any experience with this. And you already know when you get to the collegiate level in black bands, it's even worse in high school. In
Oh
high school,
yes. Oh
high school
yes.
is high school is bad, but I went straight from a core style school straight to a HBCU marching band, and overnight, I remember my first night of pre-drill. We got done probably at 2 a.m. and we started at 5:45 that morning. We got done at 2 a.m. and I woke up on the floor looking at my bed around 4 a.m. with Charlie horses in both my legs and having to crawl.
With a trumpet beside you.
Yes, sir. It was up under the bed, ready for the next morning. And I had to crawl in the bed and then try and get like 2 more hours of sleep and then wake up and do it all over again. I remember there's this thing called biofreeze. It's kind of like icy hot
Yes,
where you rub
sir.
it on your muscles that sore and it chills them and it kind of relaxes them. I walked around smelling like a peppermint for all the pre-drill because I was lathered up with biofreeze.
Hey man, but like you said in your story, you didn't know that what your father was preparing you for. You didn't understand the assignment that God had for you later on in life when you were 13 years old and you were waking up that early in the morning. You were going out with your father to make an honest living. You didn't know the trajectory that God had for you and all the doors that have been opened to you. Like you said, you were trying to go to some other school because you didn't really have a great understanding of HBCs and much less their band. But once you got there, like you said, in a day or two, you had already adapted. But yes, it hurt. But at the same time, you had the endurance, you had the drive, you had the stamina because your dad had already built that in you.
Yeah, and I mean, on so many aspects, God prepared me for that part of my life. Because even growing up, I was always kind of an outcast in my family. Like my cousins and everything, they still love me, they still show me love, but I never quite fit in because I was never into sports. I was always in the academic team or the gaming club or chess or band. So in a lot of ways, when we would play sports in Rough House when we were kids, they were always trying to toughen me up and toughen me up and toughen me up. And growing up, I always kind of felt like picked on, like woe is me, why are they doing that? But then when I went to the band at Tennessee State and I had to go through what I went through there with, because it's not a game, especially in 2019 because that was before COVID happened. As a freshman, getting cussed out every single day for no reason, just because you're there, everybody being hard on you 24/7. Because I had it really rough because I didn't go to Maplewood, I didn't go to Cane Ridge, I didn't go to Whitehaven in Memphis. I came from a country school. Nobody knew.
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't
they
know.
told you alive. They roasted
Yeah,
you every day.
I didn't know any of the songs we was playing. I didn't know the first aspect about the marching style. So I'm talking every day I'm getting worked out. Every day, we gonna make a man out of you. We gonna toughen you up, this, that. And I wouldn't even been able to go through that if I hadn't, as a child, went through what I went through with my cousins. So that's what I would say. Everything in life that you think is suffering is probably just a learning experience for the next place you're gonna have to go.
But see, that's what's said. People don't understand that in your darkest moments, there's always a testament, and there's always something on the other side of that. The best breakthroughs come through in your darkest moments. Your
That's true.
best breakthroughs come through when you're mad, you're angry, you're down, when whatever. On the other side of that, because there's always rain clouds and it's always dark, but there's a rainbow on the other side of it. There's a
Yeah.
breakthrough on the other side of it.
100%. Even when I had my son, because while in college, and I would say this problem is even worse at HBCUs than at maybe cultures at PWIs. It's very easy at a HBCU to get caught up in the culture of the school itself. You get caught up in different organizations you're in, whether that's D9 or that's athletics or it's the band. it's real easy to get caught up in activities on school, and you get so caught up being SGA president or doing this or doing that on campus that you think that you're doing a whole lot for your career as a whole, but you're really not. You really have to use what you're learning in college and be stepping outside college while you're in college, getting internships, volunteering, working with other people, creating your own stuff before you get the degree. Because a lot of people I went to school with, they wait until senior year, they wait until they get out of college to start trying to build their career. You got to start building that while you're there. And me having a child after my sophomore year, that just turned on a hyperdrive for me because that was necessary to have that level of motivation to be in internships, create my own stuff, and be in the band at the same time and graduate school. I needed that next level of motivation that having a child really gave me. So everything really has been to my benefit. That's how I see stuff.
Right. But see, on the other side of that, what I see is you have to have a plan. Regardless what's going on, you have to have a plan. And a lot of people don't think that two plans can coincide with each other. Hey, I'm a father now, so I got to plan how to raise this young man, but I still got to figure out how to get my career together. I still got to figure out where I'm going to live at. I still got to figure out how I'm going to feed us. So you had a plan, and you had great parents, and you had God. So you had all the pieces to the puzzle that you needed, and God just helped you move through that and gave you he gave you, this is my thing, he gave you common sense and the ability to read a map because you've
Yeah.
navigated through it.
Yeah, that's very true. That's exactly how I look at it. I'm just grateful. That's really all you can be.
All right. So, News Channel 5, how long you been there?
I've been there almost 8 months now. It's been a little bit over 7 months.
How is it seeing all those people we see on the TV every day?
And that's another thing. From everything I got to experience in college, like it's great for sure. Like getting to meet Leland Statham and him giving me a graduation card, like that's a great experience. But a lot of the starstruck aspect of it, I really just haven't experienced because in college we got to see Drewski. Dr. Umar came and spoke to us. I got to perform for the president, saw Jennifer Hudson, work with Sir the Baptist, Jay Ivy. So a lot of that, I just realized that at the end of the day, no matter what somebody's doing, people are just people.
And
So
that was what I was going to say. Are they more of the star types, or are they just like, hey, there's Leland Statham walking through the break room, going to get him a donut. There's Kelly going into the bathroom. Or are they like, oh, you got to talk to my assistant?
no, no. They actually came and speak to me. A lot of them. I mean, I spoke to Ben this morning. Nick Barris, he comes and speaks to me every morning. Whenever Leland is not busy because he works so hard. Whenever he's not, they all work hard, but Leland works super hard. Whenever he's not busy, he'll speak to me. Yeah, everybody there is. When it comes to people who are on that level, they are some of the most down to earth and modest people I've ever met with that type of level to them. Because a lot of times when people get to that level, they do have certain airs about them. But at News Channel 5, it's not like that at all. Like you really, unless you watched, like if you had never seen the news before and you went inside the newsroom and everybody was just in the same room together, it would be hard to tell who's TV talent and then who's just production.
Okay, well that's cool, and I'm glad to hear that and understand that these people understand the premise of we all put our pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah, most definitely. And the biggest thing about it too that I respect from all of them, from Jennifer Krause, Nick Barris, Leland, all of them, Nikki D, is they really and truly care about the Nashville community, and they try and tell stories that they know that the community wants to be heard. And overall, in every aspect of it, they try and pride themselves on accurately portraying the community. So I think all of it's great.
Beautiful. Yeah, they have that new series called Your Voice.
Hmm.
where they're traveling around from city to city, getting the locals aspect on what's going on in their communities and all those different things. It's the new segment called Your Voice. I think that's pretty cool to get a inside look into what the community wants and needs are from them. Understanding, because here's the thing with politics. I'm gonna touch on it and I'm gonna move on. Everybody, when people talk about politics, they focus on the big show. They focus on the big show when you talk about politics, but the big show is not where the the real action is. The action is in the local affairs, with the aldermans, with the mayors, with the governors, the things of that nature. That's where your vote really counts the most. And I think people need to vote more in their local elections. And that's how we make changes to ordinance and things of that nature when it comes to gentrification, when it comes to rent prices, when it comes to the community. Vote locally, and
Yeah,
that'll
one
do
million percent,
that'll
one
make a
million
much
percent.
bigger change in all of this. It's almost time for us to go, Mr. Matthew.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you being here, and I would love to have you back on the show. And we're going to have to communicate about this whole video thing. And I don't know if I need to get a camera, what kind of equipment I need to have, whatever I need to do or get, and location and all these things. We're gonna have to sit down one day and have a good conversation about that and plan that out at a future date, because we hit our 1 year mark in July. July the 17th is when we published our first episode of the Kickback. And I'd like to do something really special or before or around that or after that as a kickoff to the new part of the show, which would be the video aspect of it. So, hopefully we can get together if your schedule is not too hectic and talk about what it'll take to produce something like that.
yeah, we can definitely come together and speak about that because that's one of my what people call 10-year goals. Is I'm trying to build a production company as well. So that's something we can definitely talk about. And before we do end off, I want to address what you just said in that last point because especially working at the news station, I feel like that's huge and a lot of people miss it. If you are upset about anything going on the national level, politics wise, you need to pay very close attention to what's going on locally. Because just speaking for Nashville, the way stuff is moving in certain aspects is a million times faster than what you think stuff is moving in the White House. And if you are not paying attention, you will be hurt or you will be left out. So it is very
You'll be left
important.
behind. You will be left behind. Most definitely, you will be left behind. Now,
Yeah.
I've got a few questions, and then we will head up out this piece. If I was to get in your car right now, what would be playing on the radio?
Probably between gospel or Robert Glasper, like either between soulful jazz, gospel, um, most of the time I listen to audiobooks. That's really what I do. I love reading. And now where I work so much, where I work at the station, I work out after that. Then I'm probably filming after that. Audiobooks is like my best friend. And especially with having a child and having to spend time with him and do everything, I don't have time like how I did in college to sit down and listen to books. So a lot of times I'm listening to audiobooks or I'm listening to jazz. I'm listening to gospel. That's really what I'm listening to. Now, every now and then when I'm feeling sentimental about those old band days, I'll turn on a little bit of Earth, Wind, and Fire, but I'm trying to get away from that as well.
I hear you. I hear you. All righty. What is Matthew's sweet indulgence? If you just got through eating or you driving down the road and you're like, I want a shake from Sonic, or I want some Oreo cookies, or I want a brownie, or I want a fudge cake. What is your sweet indulgence?
Uh, if it had to be food, I would probably say just McDonald's, but I really don't eat junk food anymore at all for a while now. If I had to say anything was an indulgence, it's probably like old video games because I grew up with my brother's old Super Nintendo, so I love playing old video games. So if I gotta just go waste some money, I'm probably gonna go waste some money on an old Super Nintendo game or PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2. And I have like a whole arcade that I've kind of built at my house to where I'm able to download those games onto a computer and play them from the cartridge or from the disc. So I'm probably doing that if I have time to spare on just anything or money to spare.
All righty. So here's a quick question about you. If you could describe your perfect boo, what would she look like, or what attributes or traits would she have?
One, one would just be respect. Um, that's really just the main thing. It's just respect, uh, loyalty, endurance, understanding, compassion. Just things like that. Anything else is really just outwardly. That's really all I'm looking for. Is just one overall respect. Like I'm more worried about all these things than even love. I mean, love is definitely important. It's there, but you can love me and be abusive all day.
Yes, yes, yes. You can love someone and be abusive all day. I totally agree with that. But you know, it's crazy. I ask these same three questions to all of my guests, and you're the first one to say that you would choose respect over love. And most of the women, because I've had a few women on my show, most of them describe they want the physical attributes of a man, but most men describe something internal. And like I said, I've interviewed, you're 23 and now it's 23 to 70. I've asked this question to a lot of different men, and most men aren't looking for the physicalities that most women think they're looking for. Most men, you said respect over everything, but most men just want a genuine, good-hearted woman. It don't matter what she look like. It don't matter what color she is. Don't matter how big her booty is. It don't matter how big her breast is. They just want a good-hearted woman.
Yeah, 100%, and especially especially because I like black girls. That's what I've always been into. Especially in our community, that's always been a problem. Is kind of that respect level of it, and then yeah, it's just that's really just the most important thing. It's just treating somebody how they're supposed to be treated. You know, treating somebody as a man, and then also for us treating our women the way they're supposed to be treated. And neither side is doing a great job of it, but we're getting better.
Hey, I can't speak for the rest of them. I love my queen.
Well, that's good. That's
I
good.
love my queen, man. She came into my life, man, and she's taught me so much about life. We've been together for about 5.5 years. And when I say, man, it took God to show me what the other side of life was like, man. My life, I've been with this woman for like I said, 5.5, going on 6 years, man. And it's been the best time of my life because God brought this woman to me. It wasn't a decision that I made. It wasn't a choice that I made. It was the fact that God brought this woman into my life. And man, she changed my life, and I've done my best to try to change her life, but not change her life, not change her, because who she is who God made her to be, and who I am is who God made me to be. And we're both imperfect people in a perfect world that God has created for us. Now, I didn't say it's perfect. I said a perfect world that God has created for us. It may
Yeah,
not be
that's
perfect
awesome.
for you. It may not be perfect for the next man, but it's perfect for us.
That's awesome to hear. I'm very happy for you.
Man, I love it every day. You know, every day is in what people tend to miss imperfection. Imperfection, there's always imperfections.
Hmm.
So even if it's perfect to you, there's always an imperfection there because nothing is perfect except the love of God.
Mm.
That's the only perfect thing in this world. Everything else has an imperfection in it. So remember that. Everything is always perfect in God, but nothing's perfect of this world.
Mm.
My brother, I love you. We have to get together and do something. I appreciate you being here. And on Friday nights, we do a 2-hour open show. We call it Freestyle Fridays or Open Forum Fridays. I'd love to have you on that show. It's a 2-hour live show. We have a panel of men from all different walks of life. You can come in and you can talk, or you can come in and listen if your schedule deems. I know you're a busy man and I know you have a schedule, but I like to extend that invite to all of my guests, and I appreciate you for being here with me tonight.
I appreciate you for having me. I appreciate the questions that you asked. And yeah, it was a great experience. A great experience. I can't wait to see you this Sunday for church.
Yes, sir. All righty. Have a great night, my man.
All right, you as well, my brother.
All righty.
Place for brothers to kick back. A place for brothers to kick back. A place for to kick back. A place for brothers. Yeah, yeah. To kick back. A place for brothers.